Welcome to today's video, where we're unpacking a truly gripping source about how global tech platforms are fundamentally altering our collective human history. We're looking at a concept called the memory enclosure, and honestly, it's going to completely change how you view your digital life.
Think about it for a second. How do you actually verify a fact today? When you need to check something, you don't hike down to a physical library anymore. You naturally just open a search engine. We all do it. We rely on these digital networks, totally trusting that they act as permanent, unyielding repositories of human history.
But what if you're searching for a specific, maybe controversial statement a politician made just last year, and suddenly the record has shifted? The context is sanitized, maybe the original video is totally gone, or the quote is just buried under pages and pages of unrelated PR links.
Or what if the raw, original data of a major economic crisis, the exact statistics you specifically bookmarked like 6 months ago, is suddenly just no longer accessible when you type in the exact same keywords? What if the absolute primary source of a major historical event has just vanished entirely from the first 10 pages of your search results? It's literally as if it never even happened. And this gets right to the source's most chilling claim. Behind those incredibly clean, user-friendly corporate interfaces we use every day, the past is no longer permanent. The system isn't just logging information anymore. It is actively curating what you are allowed to remember. In other words, the past has become a fluid, real-time variable. So let's get into part 1, the liquid archive. To understand how our memory is being enclosed, we really have to shatter this myth of the stable digital record. You see, in the early days of the internet, an uploaded document was kind of like a stone monument. It just stayed put. But today's search engines and live encyclopedias, they are basically a giant digital whiteboard. They operate on these continuous, automated indexing loops that platforms can just wipe clean or rewrite in absolute milliseconds. It is a total transition to a liquid archive. Now, the mechanism making this all possible is something called dynamic deprioritization. When a controversial piece of data or an inconvenient truth starts trending, these platforms rarely issue a loud public ban, right? Because that just draws way too much attention. Instead, they silently alter the search parameters. They just bury the primary sources under millions of pages of automated corporate noise, making the truth virtually impossible to locate.
Moving right along to part 2, real-time fact modification.
Because it's not just about hiding things, it is about actively rewriting them. You really have to ask, why is the manipulation of the past such a highly valued asset for tech monopolies? Well, the text argues a super powerful point here. Whoever controls the baseline of history dictates the exact limits of what people believe is possible in the present. If you control the past, you absolutely control the present. And here is the exact mechanical process happening right under our noses. Step 1, a major event unfolds. Step 2, highly advanced machine learning models instantly track public sentiment in real time. And step 3, the digital narrative is continuously adjusted on the back end. Search results are literally pruned to match whatever the current institutional narrative requires. The sheer scale of assets being actively modified is just staggering. Search rankings get completely inverted overnight. Old news headlines are silently edited long after they were published, and without any retraction notices, by the way. Live search suggestions get filtered, and digital records are systematically erased. You are no longer presented with an objective reality, but rather a highly synchronized, corporate-approved version of history that's designed for immediate compliance. Which brings us to part 3, systemic amnesia. So what actually happens to a society that operates under these liquid conditions day in and day out? The source warns of a massive societal cost, which is the complete collapse of horizontal public awareness. This essentially means our shared understanding of reality just disappears. When a society is stripped of an unaltered, independent historic anchor, we completely lose our collective footing. Let's break down the actual cost of this artificial amnesia. Without that historic anchor, we just cannot spot repetitive cycles of corporate greed or economic exploitation. If we can't remember the last financial crash accurately, we become entirely defenseless against predatory policies today. We're essentially trapped in this continuous psychological reset, forced to process every single engineered crisis as if it were completely unprecedented. This memory enclosure acts as the ultimate digital smokescreen. It keeps the public entirely emotionally reactive and totally disconnected from context. And while we struggle to piece together what happened just, say, 3 years ago, massive consolidations of power and wealth just pass by completely unscrutinized.
And that leads us to our conclusion, the boundary wall.
We look at our personalized feeds, our instant search bars, and our cloud backups, and we feel this false sense of absolute knowledge. We genuinely believe we are the most informed generation in human history, really just because the search bar is fast. But the source leaves us with a brilliant, provocative challenge. The next time you look up a fact, look past the immediate, convenient answer provided on your screen. Look at what is missing. Actively look for the primary sources that have been quietly, algorithmically pushed to the extreme fringes of the web.
Because you aren't using an objective tool to remember the world. You're navigating a highly optimized, dynamic boundary wall. The algorithm has re-indexed, the records are updated, and the ultimate question you have to ask yourself when you stare into that screen is this: who is balancing the ledger?